Okay.
Then I should have sent my network this link. I don't know why I didn't think about it.
It depends on, there are networks and there are networks. But we will have the recordings to show for everyone. So good evening.
Yes.
And we're live now, and it's a
Great.
pleasure for us to have for me to have this night in another meeting of the Middle East Center, my friend Juliana Taimoorazy, a truly courageous voice from the Assyrian nation. Juliana is an Assyrian American activist, a former Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and co-founder of the movement for the rights of the Assyrian people. Born in Iran, she fled religious persecution and now serves as the president of the Iraqi Christian Relief Council, dedicated to aiding persecuted Christians communities in the region. Crucially, Juliana is a leading interfaith activist committed to fostering understanding, reconciliation, and a strong alliance between Israel and Assyrians, and also the founder of the Assyrians Against Anti-Semitism initiative she started in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. She's
Yes,
a
correct.
vital voice for minority rights and a shared future in the Middle East. And I had the pleasure of hosting her and the Syrian delegation in Tel Aviv 2 weeks ago, with the agenda of promoting the ties between the Assyrian people and the Israeli civil society. It's a pleasure to have you today with us. I would like you to introduce yourself and to tell your story, but before you do it, I would like to remark that the main obstacle to the Israeli-Assyrian relationship or alliance is actually on the Israeli side, and it lies with the public awareness. And I'm saying it on your behalf because I'm pleasant to leave you to say it, but one of the most uh, inconvenient episodes that are reoccurring is when Assyrians are speaking to Israelis and Israelis are asking them, did you came from the Bible? Because unfortunately, Israelis are, in general, are not aware to the fact that Assyrians survived the Bible in our days and are still a living nation in the Middle East, originally from Iraq, but today they live in diaspora like the Jewish communities before the formation of Israel. And I think that is our mission as Israelis to create a lot more awareness to the existence of Assyrians, first of all, and to their heritage and the old friendship and alliance between Assyrians and Jews throughout the nations, even that we did have some harder times, and the huge potential of an Assyrian-Israeli alliance in shaping the part of the new form of the Middle East. So, Juliana, thank you for joining us. And please start by telling us your story and your message to the people of Israel.
Sure, of course. It's really, truly an honor for me to be here and to speak to the Jewish people and other Israelis. It really is an honor for me. Thank you for the invitation, Tom. And your graciousness, your hospitality, yours and your team members and others that were present in those meetings. It truly touched my soul and the delegation that I was a part of, our hearts. So thank you. As you said, I was born in Iran. I escaped Iran in 1989 due to religious harassment, persecution, came to the US in 1990. I was raised by a father who taught me how to be pro-Israel, pro the Jewish people. I was 7, 8 years old when he started talking to me about this. And frankly, I didn't understand the concept of Zionism. Obviously, I was a child, but Later on, I coined the term child Zionist. I would say that because he raised me to by concrete reasons why I should be a friend of Israel and a friend of the Jewish people. So this is how I was raised in Iran, and if you, I'm sure you know, everybody knows that on in schools, the Iranian Islamic Republic of Iran would paint the American flag and the Israeli flag on the ground, and he always told me, try to tippy toe around it without making it obvious that you don't want to step on these two flags. So this is the sentiments I was raised with. And the first time I came to Israel was in 2012, to speak about the persecution of the Assyrians in Iraq. And when I was leaving, Tom, I wept bitterly. I felt like my roots were being pulled from the ground. And to be honest with you, this time when I left, this was my 14th time in Israel. And this time when I was leaving, I put my hand on the airplane window and I cried. And thank God the lights were off. But my fellow traveler, who is a Jew whose mother is Indian, he said, "Are you crying?" I said, I couldn't answer. The connection that I have with the land, with the Jewish people, is just, it transcends words. So I'm not going to be able to explain how I feel about you all.
Thank you so much. It shows, and you really resonate on our frequency. I think that it takes only a few seconds to find out. Why did you came?
This time?
Let's start with this time. Or maybe let's start with the first time.
The first time I came because of an invitation that was extended to me to come and speak of the persecution of Assyrian Christians in Iraq. And I spoke in different places. And for example, Dr. Mordechai Nissan, who is a prominent figure in Israel, he had moderated one of the panels. But we spoke, myself and some other people, they were evangelicals and Catholics, and a few Middle Easterners had come to present the plight of the persecuted Christians in the region and also in North Africa. And obviously it became a spiritual trip as well at the time. And since then, several times that I have come, I used to work for an organization called the Philos Project, and we would bring young leaders to Israel for them to see really the reality and the geopolitical situation in Israel. And then I started bringing Assyrian young people from North America through a program called Passages, for the Assyrians to come and see what really is possible if we get our act together, if we really understand ourselves and understand the lives of the Jews and Zionism. We could see what possibilities we have for ourselves in our ancestral homeland, which is Iraq. And then after that, I came in 2024 to pay my respects really in Neo Oz. I went to the grounds of the Nova Festival, and I met the granddaughter, Noam, the granddaughter of Shlomo Mansour, who was the survivor of the Farhud, and also the oldest hostage. And at the time, we didn't know that he had perished. His body was returned to Israel in December 2024. So I came and visited with people that had been with the children of the people that had been freed, the family of those who had still been held captive by Hamas. And then I went to Neo Oz while the war still was raging. I recorded it. And you know, Tom, I must tell you, obviously, I've been involved as an Assyrian with the persecution of the Assyrians. I've witnessed their tears, their pain, and I went to northern Iraq in 2016 for the first time. And I went to the areas that had been destroyed by ISIS. I was 1 kilometer away from ISIS when we were there in February 2016, in the city of Telescope. But what I saw, what I witnessed in Neo Oz, which I believe has sustained the heaviest damage per capita, if I'm not wrong, my heart just was shattered. I went to the doorstep of the Bibas family's house, And I met the man who had collected the bodies of the deceased, of the murdered Jews. And he told me stories that shook me to my core. I've always been a friend of the Jews. And since 2018, in an organized fashion, I've been combating anti-Semitism. But really, that day in Oz, I vowed that I would not be silent in the face of Jew hatred. And this time, I came along with my fellow Assyrians from Australia, Mr. Hermes Shahin of the Assyrian National Council of Australia, to really seek friendship with Israelis and really to find ways of building stronger bridges with the Jewish people and other Israelis. The geopolitical situation is changing. The borders are being redrawn in the Middle East. And we should and must have a seat at the table. I've been in this world of advocacy officially for the Assyrian people since 2007. And I have found that we, in the West at least, have always been, have never had a seat at the table and have always been given breadcrumbs. Well, enough is enough. And I feel with our natural kinship with you, with many commonalities that we have with the Jewish people, as we are entering this new phase in the Middle East, forming new relationships and stronger relationships with the Jewish people that I have been working on really since 2012. It's nothing new to me. But also with the Arabs that are not fundamentalists, that they need to know that Ashurim, the Assyrians, Ashurim, are alive and well, although we're facing extinction in the next 2 or 3 generations. The Arabs also need to be reminded that we are still present in the Middle East, that we should not just wait for the West to do something for us. We are capable people. We're here. We're demanding a seat, and I think the Jews can help usher that path for us.
Definitely. Thank you for that. So I would like us to take a step back because many people that are watching us don't know the Syrians as a nation or know the word Ashurim from the Bible and the tales of the Bible, but not who are Assyrians in the modern age. So maybe take us a bit to the beginning of the Assyrian story, not to the Bible, but to the modern age Assyrians. What's happening with the Assyrian nation today? Can you describe its situation? You mentioned the ordeals with ISIS in Iraq, but I'm sure that not everyone that is watching us is aware of what happened there. Please tell us the Assyrian tale.
Certainly. So just briefly, I know we're not going to go back too far, but our history is over 6,700 years. And our ancestral homeland is northern Iraq, southern Turkey, northeast Syria, and northwestern Iran. Our language is Aramaic. Initially, it was Akkadian, but when we brought the Arameans to northern Iraq, northern Mesopotamia, I should say, we adopted their language, and Aramaic became the lingua franca of the region. And so there's over 600 characters in cuneiform, and we did away with that. It became, at the time, the language of the monarchy, and but then lingua franca, the language of trade, became Aramaic. So today the Assyrians I will tell you, I believe we're about 2 million in the world. There are others that say we're about 4 million. However we are, we're not enough, frankly, and we're facing extinction. We're staring extinction in the face. So there are about 2 million Assyrians that still speak Aramaic. It is a language that the young generation, I'm pleased to say, have come to realize its importance in our continuation and our existence. So there are many young Assyrians that are learning how to read and write the language as well. Unfortunately, people around my age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, at the time did not understand the importance. The younger generation is more aggressive in learning the language and keeping the traditions alive. We're the largest diaspora. So at the time of the invasion of Iraq by the US, we were 1.5 million Assyrians, also known as Chaldean and Syriac. Those Assyrians who follow the Catholic Church, they call themselves Chaldean. Those who follow the Syriac tradition of Christianity, they are Syriac Catholic or Syriac Orthodox. We Assyrians, or there are the other groups of Assyrians that follow the Church of the East and the Assyrian Church of the East. We also have evangelicals as well. So basically, the Assyrians converted to Christianity through St. Thomas the Apostle in the 1st century AD. We took the faith to north to Georgia and then east to China. And it has been proven because they discovered a stele that had been written in the 700s in the 8th century in China. It has Aramaic language and Chinese language. So fast forward to 2003, we were 1.5 million. Today, we have barely 100,000 left. Everyone fled. Many of us in Iraq, and many of us perished, were murdered in the hands of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Today, like I said, about 100,000 in Iraq. In Iran, when I was there in the 1980s, we had probably about 40,000, something like that. The census, unfortunately, are just an approximation. Today, we only have 3,000 across the entire country of Iran. In Turkey, we have about 20,000. In Syria, members of the Assyrian Church of the East, there are only about 1,200 people. But Assyrians who adhere to other church doctrine, church sects, were about probably 25,000. So there has been a mass exodus out of the Middle East. The largest diaspora population is in the United States, anywhere between 400 to 500,000. The next largest is in Germany or Sweden. It's between Germany or Sweden. Then it's Australia. There's been a large migration that has happened since ISIS to Australia. Then it's Russia. We have about 70 to 80,000 in Russia. So much like the Jews, from Japan all the way to Argentina, were dispersed across the world. And my message to the Assyrian people is, if we have been displaced across the globe, it is our responsibility to educate everyone about the beauty of Assyria, that we still exist and we have not lost our heritage. You know, Hittites have come and gone, Phoenicians have come and gone, but there is a reason that God has enabled us to still exist. And a lot of Assyrians refer to the only prophecy that is pro Assyria in the Torah, and it's Isaiah 19:23 to 25, which states that there will be a highway from Assyria to Egypt and then to Israel, and the three people will come together to worship the Lord. So many Assyrians hold on to that prophecy that promises us to once again rise. And today, or at least since 2012. And I know there have been people before me. For example, there was a gentleman, Pierre Tolahani of California, who has passed away, unfortunately. He also worked or tried to work with the Israelis at the time. If I'm not mistaken, he even met Golda Meir to talk about our case. So I'm not the first one, and I'm sure I'm not going to be the only one or the last one that wants to form a closer relationship with the Jews, but I'm consciously doing it full time, day in and day out, for many reasons. It is not just for the benefit of the Assyrians. I believe that we must fight this metaphysical Jew hatred that has taken root and has risen its head again globally. And we, being your kin, it is our duty and responsibility, whether Christian or not, to fight Jew hatred. So for me, I always remember Immanuel Levinas's words, who was a Holocaust survivor and a great Jewish thinker. He has a great quote. He says, "For others in spite of myself, from myself." So I'm dedicated to the Assyrian cause and to the Jews as well.
Thank you so much. There is a lot of resemblance between the situation of the Assyrian people today and the situation of the Jewish people before 1938 or the establishment of the State of Israel. Do you get inspired by Zionism? How do you see the matching between what happened with the Jewish diaspora and the possible future of the Syrian communities? Do you think it could be a model that you will copy or be inspired from somehow?
Absolutely. My great uncle is his Assyrian name is Freydon Aturaya. His name is Freydon Bet Abram. He was born in Iran. He migrated. He escaped the Ottoman genocide of the Assyrians, Greeks, and Armenians in 1915 to Russia. And he was assassinated. He was killed by Stalinists. He is known as Theodor Herzl of the Assyrians. And I've been raised on stories within my family of his bravery and his ideology that is very much like Theodor Herzl, like other great Zionists. And there's much that we can learn because our cause is very similar to the Jewish cause. There's a tremendous amount that we can learn from the Jews. We can be mentored by the Jewish people. Something that you and I and our colleagues discussed when we were in your office was I've made an observation a few years back. The assault, the official assault against the Assyrian people. I mean, we've been persecuted in the hands of the Persian Zoroastrians first 2,000 years ago, 1900, 1300, or 18, 1900 years ago, because of the Christian faith that we converted to. And then came Islam, and Islamists killed us and destroyed our churches, forcefully converted us to Islam. But officially, in recent memory, it started with the Kurdish chieftain Bedr Khan Beg in Turkey, and that was in 1843. So Assyrians began officially and systematically erased from our ancestral lands in Turkey and then northwestern Iran and Urmia region. But that's also when, and people started exiting those regions, first displaced internally and then leaving the region. And that is when, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when the Jews began migrating back. Obviously, there's always been Jews living on the land of Israel. But then they systematically began returning. Why? Because they were not accepted anywhere else. They were refugees. Everyone was against them. No one welcomed them. So they had to leave the Arab world and the Western world and go back to their rightful land, land of Israel. So I've noticed that when our migration began out of our ancestral lands, your migration began back to your ancestral land. So there's something, and I'm a spiritual person, so there's something metaphysical, there's something mystical about that. And we briefly talked about it, that I think we really should explore a little bit more that idea. But yes, I give long answers, forgive me, I have so much to say.
Oh, that's
But
the idea.
the short answer is yes. The short answer is our causes are so similar, and we can learn a great deal from you.
Oh, we like long answers. I think people need to learn more and to understand more. Let's talk a bit about, as you mentioned, the kinship between the Syrian people and the Jews. I was actually surprised to hear that Syrians call Jews Kariva, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
basically the same term that you use for best man or the Godfather. So
Yes.
it's really interesting because both of these statuses, whether it's best man or Godfather, those are like the people that are closest to us, but not actual family. but the ones that we will choose that doesn't come from our family. So I think it's very interesting to note it, and let's speak a bit about a lot of similarities between Assyrians and Jews, and the language and traditions that you are almost an expert in.
No, I'm not an expert, but thank you. So the term, I think in Hebrew, I'm going to mispronounce it, so forgive me. I'm just starting to learn Hebrew, and it's so interesting. Our alphabets are almost exactly the same, pronounced at least the same. But the term we call qariva, and it's karev, yes, in Hebrew?
Karov.
Okay.
It's close.
Yes, or
Relative.
we call you our cousins. And so it is something that, and another terminology that I'd like to present, and those Jews that are from Iraq or from Iran, they will know this term. They call us Nashdidan, and we call you, those Jews from Iraq and Syria or Iran, Nashididan, which means our own people. And that is something that I was not aware of until I think it was 2018. I was making a presentation at one of the universities in Houston through Hillel on campus. And this man came up to me and he said, "So you're Nashdidan?" And I said, "I don't understand what you're saying." And he said, "What do you mean? It's your language." I said, "I really don't know what you're saying." And so anyway, and he said, "Okay." Well, he was leaving, and all of a sudden it hit me. I said, "Oh my God, he's saying Nashididan." So I ran after him. I said, wait, did you say Nashididan? And then, so that's another term that we use for you. Linguistically, we're extremely close. When you say your prayers, I understand biblical Hebrew more than the Hebrew on the street. I struggle with Hebrew on the street. But if I am sitting and learning Torah, I'm here. When they're reading it for me, I understand a great deal. So our languages are similar. Our traditions, especially in Iraq and in Iran and in the Middle East, are so similar. Our fate has been so similar, with one big contrast, and that is that Christianity is welcoming us in its embrace in the West, and we're able to be Christians, but we're losing our identity as Assyrians. We're losing our heritage and our language. Whereas you guys, the Jews, were severely persecuted in the hands of Christians, and you had to flee Christian lands, and also the Arab world to go home. So yes, so the similarities are tremendous. There is a fantastic, and I'll send this link to you if you'd like to share it with your network. So I must speak about the Assyrian Jews that we have in Israel. There is, if I'm not mistaken with the numbers, there are the Jews that left the land of Ashur. Ashur is where the name Assyrian comes from, Asur, which is northern Iraq. The Jews that left northern Iraq are considered to be Assyrian Jews. And if I'm not mistaken, there is about 50,000 Assyrian Jews that are in Israel, and about 400 to 500 descendants that are across the country in Israel. The leading individual who has founded a new movement called Lishanan, which is Lishon, in Hebrew, I think, our language, is Yaakov Maoz. Dr. Yaakov Maoz has started this firestorm that has encouraged the Assyrian Jews to remember their language, their identity. Their language is Aramaic, and their identity is Assyrian Jews. So that's yet another closeness that we have, that we share with one another, that we actually have Assyrian Jews that are living in the land who are from northern Iraq, from areas like Zahol and other places that we have a kinship with. And, there's, if anyone reads Operation Babylon, that's the English term for the book of Shlomo Hillel, who I think started an actual operation called Operation Nehemiah that mobilized 120,000 Jews out of Iraq. He extensively speaks about the Assyrians and how Assyrians helped in Iran and Iraq to help smuggle Assyrians out. Even we have Assyrians who sheltered the Jews during the Farhud, which was the massacre of the Jews on June 1st and 2nd of 1941 by the Arabs. And so we have a long history. And I have to tell you that in 2018, when I was in Iraq, in January 2018, I was in the north in a village called An-Nune. It's in the Barawar area. And when I was there, I came and they said, oh, there's a synagogue here. And they directed me to the place. And I went, and there were a couple of candles. I don't know from when they were there, but extinguished candles that were there on the ground in this destroyed synagogue. It wasn't, I don't think it was vandalized. I think it was just abandoned, right? And then the grass had covered it. So I went and I said a prayer. So the following trip that I came with a delegation from the US, there were two Jews that came with me, US Jewish individuals, and we held Shabbat in that synagogue. And some people came to me, and one of the older men cried to me and said, I haven't heard Hebrew in so many decades. Thank you for bringing these people back. So look, I'm going to say another thing. Prophet Nahum's tomb is in the city of Al-Qush, and evangelical Christians know him as Nahum or Nahum Al-Kushi. And so even though he prophesied the destruction of the Assyrian Empire, it was the Assyrians that protected his bones from Saddam Hussein. Saddam had raided the tomb, but ahead of time, the Assyrians had removed his remains, protected them from the grip of Saddam Hussein. So yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that I can share with you, but it's going to take 24 hours. It'll be 1001 Arabian Nights again. It'll be 1001 Assyrian Jewish Nights, maybe.
We should
But
do that
yeah, I
one.
mean, maybe that's an idea for us to start, huh? You know what, Tom? Maybe that's seriously a project.
That's okay. We'll write
After
it
my
down in the
PhD, let
to-do
me
list.
finish my PhD and we'll talk about
Okay,
that.
okay, okay. We'll get back to it. It's it sounds
Yeah,
nice.
mental
Um,
note.
yeah, definitely. So first of all, I would like to encourage our crowd to ask questions. If you would like to write your questions on the chat, and I'll read them, or you want to ask yourself, if you're with us on the Zoom, you can just raise your hands, and I'll let you ask your question. But meanwhile, I'd like to ask you, and it's sort of a pop quiz, but forgive me for
Oh
it.
God.
Um, do you think you can count the months in Assyrian? On the
Yes,
Assyrian?
yeah, well, yes, I think so. Or most of them at least. You're embarrassing me now. Let me start with the alphabet, and then we'll go to the
Let's start with
months.
the alphabet.
So we say Elabid, Gemel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zen, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kap, Lamed, Mim, and so on. And you say Aleph, Beit, Gamel, Dalet, right? Vav, Zen, Chet, Kaf, or Chet too, yes? Yes. But as far as the months, yes, we have Ishvat, Nisan, Ishvat, Adar. I'm not going in sequence, but for example, Tishrin Qamayat, Tishrin Trayana, Kanun Qamayat, Kanun Trayana, Ishvat, Adar, Nisan, Yar, and these are yours as well, I believe.
Yes, Elul. You
So
have Elul as well.
Elul, exactly. Elul Av, Tammuz. Yes. You don't have Tishrin Qamaya Trayana. You have one Tishrin. We
Yes.
have Tishrin Qamaya. Tishrin Qamaya, I think that's actually a Hebrew term as well. Qamaya, primary first. Trayana is Stein, I think, or two, second. Stein or Stein? Two. How do you say two?
Stein.
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 Okay.
Hebrew.
I'm an embryo. I have a fantastic professor, Dr. David Patterson, who is a convert from Christianity to Judaism. And he's been my mentor for 5 years. So anything that I'm learning mystically, metaphysically, spiritually, linguistically, and Hebraic thought and Holocaust and combating anti-Semitism is through him. And he's teaching me a great deal, truly. And I'm finding so much similarities, so many similarities with the Jewish people linguistically, spiritually, mystically. Look, for example, our tree of life is your 10 sfirot. It's your sfirot. And it's so that has encouraged me to delve deeper into what is the meaning of our Assyrian tree of life. So yeah, it's beautiful. I think Judaism is beautiful. I think I said once to Steve Dishler, a friend of mine in Chicago, I said to him, and Dr. Yaakov Maoz was there too. I said, when I look at the Jews, I see the most beautiful hues. Your soul has been painted with the most beautiful hues, not of this earth. Your soul is from heaven, and it's painted with the most beautiful colors not known to man. So here, this is how I feel about you.
Thank you, Juliana. It's an amazing conversation. Thank you again. I would like to read the question by Corinne Eisner. Does the diaspora, of course, the Syrian diaspora, have some kind of central body or organization that brings the different communities and churches under one umbrella, which can produce a united culture, activities, and political movement?
Yes. So I will speak of the US first. And Assyrian American National Federation is comprised of many organizations, and that is a unifying agent in the US. In fact, Mr. Asher Shiba is the man who introduced me to you, Tom, a big voice in Chicago and a big voice in the Federation right now. And
My
they
thanks to
commissioned.
Ashur for this connection.
Yes, most definitely. And he has commissioned me on behalf of the US to come and represent our case in Israel. And he has the backing of our political parties and others. We also have Assyrian National Council of Illinois, and we have many organizations within the US, both aid and also civil society. Our political parties are in Iraq, a majority of them, and the most powerful ones are in Iraq. And also, we have a federation in Europe. A gentleman that we were together, Mr. Hermes Shahan, is, as I said earlier, is with the Assyrian National Council of Australia, a very powerful organization. And there is many organizations that are under the council in Australia. For example, there's a youth organization there. We also have youth organizations here and in North America as well. So I would say because the largest diaspora is here in the US, majority of the world's eyes are obviously on Washington, right? Usually on Washington, D.C., and also on the United States Assyrians and what we're doing. For example, the Federation, Assyrian American National Federation, hosts a convention that internationally once a year Assyrians from all across the globe come to have a bit of fun, to meet one another. A lot of marriages happen during the convention, and also they do a lot of educational activities as well. So the answer to your question, my dear, is that yes, we have centralized organizations that bring people together. But we look, I was talking to one of your colleagues, Shahar, and I said, look, Assyrians have to do cheshbon nefesh. Really, we have to look in the mirror and see. You mentioned earlier in the discussion, you were talking about the last 120 years of our history. So let me do a recap of that. What we have done within the last 120 years is crucial. Where have been our pitfalls? How we have been deceived? What were our strengths? And what are our weaknesses? We have to be honest with ourselves before we can take a step forward, I think. So Our mass exodus, as I said, began in the late 1800s. Dr. Benny Morris and Dror Ze'evi have put together a fantastic body of work called The 30-Year Genocide, and I have it on my bookshelf behind me. It is the most eloquent description of the Assyrian, Greek, and Armenian genocide of 1914. And it's really is not a 4-year genocide. It really started in the late 1800s all the way to 1924. 1923, 1924. It's 30 years. So because of that, great Assyrian thinkers escaped Turkey, escaped Syria and northwestern Iran, Iraq. We have great thinkers that, unfortunately, a lot of our writing is in Assyrian or in Arabic, and much of it has not been translated, which is an abomination. I think there should be an institution that translates these great thinkers, because a lot of young people don't know about great Assyrian thinkers that lived in Iran or lived in Turkey. We just know a few of them, unfortunately, because their work has been translated into English, and a fantastic publishing house that is fairly new, maybe, I don't know, 10 years, 9 years, something like that, out of Sweden, called Nineveh Press. And Nineveh is symbolic, as you know. Yonah went to Nineveh, and he alarmed or alerted the Ninevite king and the Ninevites to turn to the Hebrew God. And they did. I have to tell you about this too. And then I go back to Nineveh Press. So when the Assyrian king heard the message of Yonah, who did not want to go to Nineveh to help them be saved as a people of God, he escaped, as you know. He escaped, but God, who can go against God? For those of us who believe in God, ultimately we get on the path, like Jonah did. And so they fasted according to tradition, 40 years and 40 nights. And Assyrians, if I'm not mistaken, it was during the 11th century, a bishop in Kirkuk, northern Iraq, said, look, we have to go back to our ancestors, because there was an incurable disease. I think it was plague that had struck northern Mesopotamia, Kirkuk, and he brought back to life the Jonah fast of Jonah. So today, we still fast the Jonah's fast. We call it the rogation of Ninevites for 3 days, and then the fourth day is our Thanksgiving, 3 days and 3 nights. So back to Nineveh Press,
Just to remark
Thomas.
that, just to
Yes,
remark that Nineveh Plateau is like the homeland of Assyrians, for context.
yes, it was central to it was Nineveh was one of our capital cities, and one of three. And today, Nineveh Plain we are striving to make it an autonomous region, where Assyrians can live freely with other minorities, that want to come live there as brothers, and to be self-sustained and to be able to thrive. And as you know, very well, as Jews, unless you're on your own land, you will not be able to preserve your heritage, your sacred language. And this is where our forefathers are buried. The brave Assyrians that still hold the fort in Iraq, we owe them, absolutely owe them, to support them and to see this project through, meaning the creating an autonomous region for us on the plains of Nineveh, in Nineveh envelope. So Nineveh Press, under the founder is Thomas. He's done a great job with publishing some of great thinkers' books, like Naum Fayed, who's buried here in New Jersey, escaped the Middle East, Mesopotamia, or escaped the Middle East after the Ottoman genocide or during the Ottoman genocide, or Dr. David B. Perley, who is an astonishing thinker, Assyrian thinker. But we have so many more that our young generation is not aware of. So we have to do a better job in cheshbon nefesh, in so many things that we need to do. Cheshbon nefesh, to those non-Jews, is accounting of our basically staring ourselves in a mirror to really evaluate ourselves, evaluate our own soul.
Self-evaluation.
Am I correct, Tom?
Self-evaluation, yes, I think it's...
By the way, cheshbon in our language is the same, cheshbona, we say cheshbona. So when I first heard somebody was asking for the bill at the restaurant, they said cheshbon, and I said, wait a minute, that's a Syrian term as well, so...
It happens with so many words.
Yes, most
So I'm going to read a question by Tara Tuv on our chat. And I kind of feel that this question is also to me, but let's start with your answer and see where we get from there. So the question is, many Israelis would see non-Jews from Arab lands or Arabic speakers here. Assyrians are not Arabic speakers, but they partially are, as Arabs, quote unquote. What can we do here in Israel to separate of course, separating the conscience, Arabic-speaking Christians from the generic title of Arabs? What would be your answer to that?
Brilliant question. Something that I have actually, a concept that I've posed to Arab Christians that complain about being stuck between the hard and a rock place, or a rock and a hard place. I say, what are you doing to set yourselves apart from, let's say, those Arabs that are thirsty for Jewish blood, that are against the Jews and the state of Israel? It is, I believe, it is a responsibility of the Arab Christians in the land to work with the state of Israel to show their difference, and that they're not against the Jewish state or the Jewish people, right? The Assyrians ethnically we are Assyrians. Those of us like me who are born in Iran, we speak Farsi. Those who are born in Turkey speak Turkish as a second language. And those who are born in Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, for example, we have very few in Jordan, they speak Arabic as a second language. And so I think education is number one. Reach out to us. We can meet. Thank God for Zoom. The world has become so much smaller, and we can have a wider reach also because of social media. Let's get to know each other. Let's talk. I think Elie Wiesel, the great man, a Holocaust survivor and a Nobel laureate, said, opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And let us not be indifferent towards one another. Let us think about ourselves, think of each other as members of one human race, that we need each other. We need each other to build a brighter future. That's why I believe in the Abrahamic movement, Tom, and it's an honor for me that you've invited me to be a founding member in the US of your movement, because only it is through dialogue. And I think of poor Charlie Kirk, who I was an admirer of his work and of his openness to the other side. That we need to start speaking with one another. Let's break bread together. Let's sing together. Let's dance together. Those are the elements that I think will help us break the barriers and move forward on a united front as a human race.
So
I hope I answered that question.
Yes, I would also like to jump on this question, because I think that to some extent it is my informal responsibility over here. I think that it's an important topic. I think that Israelis are basically blind to the differences between different nations, opinions, school of thoughts in the Middle East. And this is, first of all, the mission that we are taking upon ourselves as under the banner of the Middle East Center. That's why we have those sessions, this YouTube channel, our groups and our delegations and meetings, etc. I think, as you said, we should do a lot more. Zoom is a great tool. It's not the only modern tool that we have. We also have WhatsApp. we have AI to translate, we have many social networks to connect on. And I think that the answer is more contact between Israelis and Assyrian, first of all, but also between Israelis and different groups in the Middle East. And regarding the Israeli-Assyrian contact, I think that this is a good starting point, but maybe let's not jump yet to 1001 Israeli-Assyrian nights, but maybe we should have another wider Zoom meeting with more Assyrian speakers in a month or so, and to start maybe occasionally to have Israeli-Assyrian meetings, to have a WhatsApp group, to broaden the discussion in the circle and to get better understanding of each other, because I think it's crucial. Corinne, you will excuse me, I noticed that you asked another question, but I would like to hop on this stream of thought and to ask another question. We will get back to your question. And first of all, Tal would like to thank you, Juliana, for this wonderful talk, and I'm joining him in this thank you.
Thank you.
So you mentioned before your opinion regarding Christians, or I think you mentioned, I think you referred to Israeli Christians that should make themselves more noticed as friendly and potential allies, because, as we know, the background is not promising for Jews in the Middle East. And I would like to to take us to the Druze tale, because I think it means a lot and it's relevant. So we're not having this conversation on, actually it became a random timing, but we're in 2025, and some of the things that happened in 2025 is I would say, major development in southern Syria, that I myself consider to be maybe a new chapter in the history of the Zionist movement, where Israel started sheltering the Druze community in southern Syria, that are a non-Jewish community and is a non-Israeli community, but basically received from Israel the same kind of support that a Jewish community would get if they were in the same situation of being attacked and surrounded, etc. And it led to a very present and a very realistic alliance. It's a new fact on the ground between Israelis and the Druze of Syria. And I think that the bottom of this issue happened after the Druze in Israel, as you mentioned, made themselves very visibly identified with the Zionist movement, with the state of Israel, with the alliance with the Jews inside Israel, and that made it possible for basically the Israelis to say, okay, those Druze in Syria that were enemies just a few years ago, and we did have even sort of bloodshed with them, but we know their kinship, we know their blood, we know their families over here, and we see that they can get along with Zionism, with Judaism, etc. And it created the path for an alliance that is today referred to as the Israeli-Druze Alliance. But you can also listen to people start speaking about the minority alliance in the Middle East. And from my point of view, the Syrians are the most obvious candidates to be the next in line as very close allies of Israel and the Druze, because I think that that could also work. How do you see this issue? We had a minority conference in Israel in October 27. It was led by Dr. Eddie Cohen, that we should pay a tribute to. and you were supposed to come, and it didn't, in the end of the day, it didn't work out for numerous reasons. But what is your standing on the issue of the minority alliance of the Middle East? How do you see it?
I earlier mentioned about the Assyrian Jews, and Dr. Yaakov Maoz wholeheartedly believes that as the Druze, the Israeli Druze advocated for their brethren in Syria, the Assyrian Jews, because of our relationship and our commonality, they could be a strong voice for us in Israel, at the Knesset, at the Foreign Ministry's office, and elsewhere, with the president and the prime minister. So I think so that's on one side. The other side is we see, as I said earlier, that the Middle East is changing. Iran has been isolated. It is no longer in charge of Syria like it used to be, although it is still doing everything it can to bring in arms and smuggle arms and etc., and still has a stronghold on Lebanon, but it is not the same. Their influence is not the same as it used to be. And hopefully, God willing, Bezrat Hashem, that their tentacles will be cut off from Iraq. I really hope so, because I'm unable to return to my ancestral land because of my relationship with Israel and the Jewish people. And I wear that proudly, that I wear that badge proudly. But I'm unable to go home to my ancestral homeland for visit. So because the borders are being redrawn, and there's serious movement of countries coming on board with Abraham Accords, and I think that minorities deserve to be looked upon. We have been ignored for far too long. The Assyrians, the Yazidis, the Druze, the Alawites, and others have been, especially now with the Alawites, but the Yazidis, the Mandaeans. Look, I don't know if you all know who Mandaeans are. They're very dear to my heart. The Mandaean community are those who follow John the Baptist. There are very few left in Iraq, very few left. And they once were a very strong aspect, I don't want to say component, but an element, an aspect of the Iraqi economy, because many of them were jewelers. And Al-Qaeda came and destroyed the Assyrian lives and the Mandaean lives, and then ISIS with the Yazidis. So I think that it's a new era. And we have to seize the moment. We have to seize the opportunity to be really because, especially the Assyrians have been in the land for thousands of years. We have been a serious member, a player in the region. Look, we, excuse me, we fought for the crown during World War I. We fought for the Allies. We fought for the crown during the World War II under the term banner of levies, Levy. And we have many decorated pilots that the crown, Great Britain, put medals on these people's uniform. And yet we have been betrayed. Britain greatly betrayed us after promising us a land for our relationship with them. They betrayed us, and the Iraqi government officially, after their founding in 1932, they launched an assault against Assyrians in the north in a town called Simel. So Simel massacre occurred in 1933. Which that was one of the major elements that gave proof of, or gave way for the term genocide to be coined by Lemkin. Sorry, I need some water. Sorry. That's what happens when I want to tell the tales. So
Yeah.
so I think because of and I'll tell you something interesting. I have a close relationship with some individuals in Bahrain, with the leadership through Rabbi Cooper, Abraham Cooper, who's a dear, dear friend of mine of Simon Wiesenthal Center. And I began advocating for the Assyrians to the Bahrainis. And when I started telling the story, they said, no, we know exactly who you are. And I said, how so? They said, in the 4th century, Assyrian clergy, Assyrian priests fled the Byzantine Empire to Bahrain, and they built a church there. So we have churches in the Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain. So we are a solid part, not just as a religious community, but as a civilization in the region, right? So I think it's time really to have a seat at the table, along with, and I will bring into the equation also Copts. Copts of Egypt have suffered tremendously as well in Egypt. And I mean, do I mention the Nigerians that are facing genocide? Do I mention the Ethiopians that are facing genocide? I mean, there's bloodshed everywhere. But let's take one step ahead of the other, to build alliances with the good people in that region. And I have to say something about building alliances in the U.S. In Skokie, where I used to live next door to the Holocaust Museum in Skokie, which is a suburb of Chicago. There's a serious movement. There's a lot of great efforts, and I see Bradley Martin has joined us. Bradley and I go a long way back, and Bradley is a part of this movement in Skokie in bringing Assyrians and the Jews closer together. Although you guys did it when I left, because I live in Dallas now, but I'm so happy to see that is happening. Also, when I listen to, I have a playlist, Israeli playlist on my iPhone, and when I listen to the music, a lot of it sounds Assyrian. A lot of it sounds Assyrian. So I think if we bring the Assyrian singers together with the Israeli singers, if we break bread together over Shabbat, I've been part of so many Shabbat dinners, and when you all pray, it's just I feel like I mean it is my language that is being spoken, and it has encouraged me to make my own challah. I've attempted to make challah twice, just recently, starting July. But I'll tell you one more thing. Yair, Yair, I'm trying to remember his last name. I wrote it. Medina, Yair Medina, who is a very strong name in Jerusalem, in the art world. He and his wife were gracious to bring me to their studio, and I was there for 2 hours. We moved literally 1 meter because there was so much to talk about, and we talked about bringing the Assyrian artists and Israeli artists together. So how beautiful it would be to bring Arab artists, Assyrian artists, Druze artists, in a beautiful convention, and put on display Assyrian cuisine, let's say Bahraini cuisine, Israeli cuisine together. There's so many opportunities if we set aside the racism and the Jew hatred, and just form a bond together, really, especially for the Assyrian people, because we have so much in common with you, our brothers, our Jewish brothers. So I'm very happy to be just a small voice in this movement, and maybe be a small brick in building this beautiful home, beautiful house. A makom. Let's make a makom, right? For God and for our humanity, shared
We
humanity.
have 1001 nights to do it, so
That's right.
yes. Um,
We'll give that to Shachar. He's going to come up
yes,
with his. He's brilliant, by the way. He's so brilliant with what he's doing. So it's a blessing to be on the same team as you guys.
definitely a blessing to have you on board.
Thank you.
So I'll now get back to Corinne's question that we neglected. Corinne Eisner question. There is a beautiful Assyrian church and a monastery in Jerusalem with a very important holy artifact, Saint Mark and Last Supper room. I'm not familiar with it,
Yes.
but Corinne is. Does it play a
Yes.
part in the identity of the community, of the Assyrian communities worldwide? and considering the different Christian denominations that Assyrian belongs to, how much does religion play a role in Assyrian identity versus national sentiments?
Can you repeat the last part? Just the last part with the
Yes, how much
place?
religion
Oh,
does
religion.
how much
Yes.
does religion play a role in Assyrian
Yes.
identity versus national sentiments?
Yes. Very, very important question. And religion, Christianity plays a very big role in our as a part of our national identity. Many are unable to separate Christianity, their Christian faith, from their Assyrian identity. They're formed together. And many of us believe the reason that we Assyrians have continued existing during the 19th and 20th century is because of the church. The church kept the language alive. The church kept us together, especially in the mountains of Turkey. So there are many Assyrians who fundamentally believe that we continue to exist because of the ancient church of the East. You're correct with St. Mark's church. That is a Syriac church. We believe that the Last Supper happened there. So, Christians they don't agree on a lot of things. They say this holy place is here for evangelicals, for Catholics is here, for the Orthodox is here. So welcome to Christianity, yeah. But we believe that apostolic churches believe that the Last Supper actually happened on the bottom part of the lower part of the church of Saint Mark, and there's a beautiful painting of the Virgin Mary and the child there that is absolutely breathtaking. But I must tell you, there is another room that a lot of people don't know about and that we take such pride in coming there. It is called the Syriac room or the Assyrian room inside the Holy Sepulchre. It is behind the tomb of Jesus, where the Copts have their jurisdiction. When you pass that area, it's a hidden area. There was fire that has destroyed the walls, but you'll see a lot of Aramaic inscription. The floor was changed for the visit of Pope. What was his name? The one before the current Pope.
Paul II?
Oh my God, Pope Francis. Pope Francis came to Israel, to Jerusalem, so they changed the floor. But that is a room that really belongs to the Assyrian people. And I believe, please don't quote me on this, but I believe the Assyrian Church of the East the Armenians have allowed us, I'm sorry to say, but they have allowed us to, I could be wrong, but I think they've allowed us to have mass there once a month. So the St. Mark's Church is extremely important for the Assyrians and those who adhere to the Syriac denomination of Christianity, but also this room that the altar has been burned, the Virgin Mary's image has been burned, but you see the remnant of it. And it's super important. So I invite those who do go to church, please do go. It's located in a hidden area, hidden room behind where Tomb of Jesus is, where the Copts have their jurisdiction. So yes, Jerusalem is crucial to us, but our sentiment must be beyond just our shared faith. It must be. My father taught me to love the Jews because Jesus was a Jew, and Jesus was a Jew. Jesus, personally, I think when he died on the cross, said the Shema, because the Jews say the Shema at the time of death. You say it twice a day anyway, morning and night, but especially at the time of death. So Jesus lived as a Jew and died as a Jew. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Juliana. I'll take another question from our YouTube channel. And the question goes, are you familiar with the Midrash that the Nineveh king, well, Midrash is a tale basically, that the Nineveh king was Paro, and that's and that's why he so quickly listened to Jonah.
I have heard that. My professor, actually, Dr. David Patterson, brought that up, and I was shocked when he said that. Midrash, by the way, Midrash, we Assyrians have a term called durasha also, so it's very close. It's almost
Yes.
identical. So yes, I have heard that. I have not read it for myself. I don't know if I don't know if we would necessarily adhere to that idea that actually King of Nineveh was the Pharaoh, and that's why to tikkun haolam, to repair what had happened earlier, he turned to the Hebrew God. I'm not sure if I were to accept it, but we don't know. I mean, there's so much out there that needs to be investigated. So we don't believe that. This is a new concept for the Assyrians, and I haven't frankly discussed it with the Assyrians. But thank you for your question.
Okay, we're about to wrap up, but I think I have two very important questions before we do. First of all, let's say you have an open check. What would be your request from Israel on behalf of the Assyrian nation?
Wow.
Without embarrassment, the way you ask from a relative.
There's so much. I would say to join forces with the United States of America, because America is the entity that has leverage in Iraq. Unfortunately, Israel does not as of yet. So I would say encourage the US government to pay attention to us. Why do I say that? Because there was a member of the House who spent 40 years of his life in Congress defending religious freedom. He and I and others were standing actually looking over the Golan Heights in 2015. And he knew he knew of my activities, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Look, Juliana, the Assyrian people are dispensable people to the foreign policy of the United States. You do not matter because your numbers are low. You guys are not a rich nation," which I vehemently disagree. We actually have very well-to-do individuals who are educated and entrepreneurs that if they understand the importance of our advocacy, they will join forces. We have fantastic influencers. Patrick Bet-David is one of them, PBD. He's known as PBD, and many others. So we have a big voice. But this man, what he said to me, which is reality, we have been knocking on Washington's door for many decades, and not just since 2003. We had two members of the House that are Assyrian, that we haven't been able to move the political needle, unfortunately. Right now, there's close relationship that there's a gentleman in Arizona, Sam Darmo. He's the founder of Assyrians for Trump, and he has a close relationship with the Trump administration. Mr. Ashu Shiba and the Federation, Assyrian American National Federation, has a close relationship with this administration. So now is the time for us. So my request of Israel is to encourage President Trump to listen to us a bit more, to see our value of what we can offer the US, what we can offer Israel. Israel needs friends in the region. And the Kurds should not be the only friends that they have in Iraq. We have fought valiantly before for the West. We have been persecuted because of our relationship with the West. For example, I remember the Arabs that were attacking, Al-Qaeda that was attacking the Assyrians in Baghdad said, "Do you think that your cousin George Bush is going to save you? We will serve you on a rice platter to your American brothers, to the American military." So we have been severely persecuted because of our shared faith with the West and because of our relationship with the West for 100 years, not just since 2003. So I would say, number one, please encourage the US to pay closer attention to us. Number two, take a look at us as a real partner for Israel in the region. And I would ask Israel to encourage the Arab world also, because of its closeness with the Arab world, to also for them to remember who Assyrians are. We are nahno, and I don't speak Arabic, but I think I'm saying this correctly, nahno ashuriyin. And we've been there for over 6,700 years. We have given so much to civilization. Things that we use today were developed by the Assyrians, and people don't know. Its origin really comes from my people, from Nineveh and from northern Iraq, so from Ashur. So that would be one thing. The other is, I would say, to the Israeli public, thank you for welcoming us into your arms. I have been so welcomed since 2012 that I've been traveling to Israel. I have been loved on, and I have been assisted, and I have been taken care of, embraced, really. And I know your love is not just for me. If you love me, you love my people. And in Skokie, the Jews have welcomed the Assyrians, and Assyrians have welcomed the Jews. So I think with having people like Yaakov Maoz in Israel, having friends like you, Tom, like Shahar and others, Dr. Mordechai Nisan, and I met wonderful people like Linda Menuhin, Elihu Ben On. I mean, these are prominent individuals. Dr. Michman at the show at the Yad Vashem, and Lily Shore, who is a Babylonian Jew, at the Babylonian Jewry Heritage Center. I mean, you guys have welcomed us in your embrace, and we need to build on it. As Assyrians, we need to build on it. And it's not a one-way street. We are here to fight anti-Semitism along your side. Our young people who are waking up to this metaphysical evil called Jew hatred. A lot of them are in line to fight with you on campuses in Australia, in Europe, here in the US. So you're not alone. And we also feel that our being sidelined is over because of our relationship with you.
Amen to that. So I'd like to ask you a final question, which is kind of complicated, but I believe it will be very interesting as well. We started our conversation where we started it with the equivalence between what happened in New Oz or the communities in southern Israel in October 7th and the massacre of Assyrians in Iraq by ISIS, by Al-Qaeda. And it reminds me of there's a ceremony that I'm always doing with scholars that are coming from the West. And it sounds, they always start by analyzing the Israeli-Arab conflict or the Israeli-Palestinian conflict by the same set of rules that they analyze conflicts like the conflict in Ireland and in South Africa. Those are actually the most common examples that people from the West, from academy, are coming with as models for adjust or for the solution of the problem or to analyze the problem with. And I constantly ask them, okay, first of all, I admit that every conflict is something that we can learn from, etc. But I ask them, why do you take the Irish conflict or the Southern African conflict as an example, but you never refer to the Assyrian Muslim conflict or to the massacre in the Yazidis or to what happened to the Armenians, that those are the equivalents in our area that shows pattern of radical Islamist movements who are basically butchering the minorities. So obviously the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a complex issue and sensitive. But what's your take on it as someone that knows few sides of this story?
Look, I think the academia has been plagued with a disillusionment. And Douglas Murray speaks of this so eloquently over and over again, especially in his last book on democracies and death cults. Academia ISGAP is an organization that does tremendous work in recognizing the modern anti-Semitism, global modern anti-Semitism. And they've studied tremendously the dollars that are funneled to universities from the Arab world, from Qatar and Turkey, especially Qatar. So I would say the Qatari money has been able to win over and blind a lot of academics. And I think there is a very serious red-green alliance. I mean, we all know academia adheres to a left-leaning socialist, forgive me for saying the S word, but socialist way of thinking, in the US and in Europe as well. And I think that this red-green alliance is very serious against Israel. And unfortunately, I lean right. And unfortunately, I see people like Tucker Carlson just being gobbled up in this and exhibiting very serious anti-Semitic sentiments. So red-green alliance, I think we need to introduce a third axis, which is the far right or some on the right, that are fanning the flames of Jew hatred. So I think, from what I have seen, and obviously we have all heard that Israel is an apartheid state and etc. And when I come there, I often laugh. And with people that come for the first time, they look around, they say, this is an apartheid state. How is it even possible that Arabs are now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody said 60%. I haven't read it. It was in a discussion. 60% of the medical students are Arabs. What apartheid state? And signs are in Arabic language as well as English and Hebrew. And the Arabs who live the Arab Israelis, they're perfectly happy to live there, and they beg not to be taken to Judea, Samaria, West Bank, or elsewhere. So I really laugh at those sentiments. And I think the reason people don't want to look at in academia or elsewhere, even many churches, when I started my organization, Iraqi Christian Relief Council, there were so many churches, Catholic churches, that did not want to hear anything that had to do with Islam. They consider listening to something that Islamists have done reality as Islamophobe. And unfortunately, Muslim Brotherhood has sunk its claws here in the US very deep in the system. You will find them everywhere. And I think it has left an impact on people. People are afraid of even educating themselves, even privately, on what Muslims are doing in Nigeria, what Muslims are doing in Ethiopia, what Muslims have done to the Assyrians, to the Greeks, to Armenians, to the Druze, to the Yazidis, to the Mandaeans. I think they're afraid of being called a racist or an Islamophobe, which is ridiculous, I think.
Yeah,
I hope that answered your question.
I think in a very good way. We have another 5 minutes, if you will. So we'll take another 2 questions from the chat. One question is the campaign effort to promote hostility towards Israel, is it a part of a larger campaign to stealth or to disguise or to shift the discussion about Islamists' violence against minorities in general? This is how you see it?
Yeah, I think that's a global movement in not attesting to the Islamic fundamentalist. Obviously, not all Muslims are adhering to this, right? There are many good Muslims that have hidden the Jews, that have hidden the Assyrians, and that tell us, look, we don't adhere to this ideology. But unfortunately, the ones that do are active in this space, they have a loud megaphone. And that's why, and I think it's a global movement, really. I mean, I watch in horror what's happening in the UK. I'm horrified with what's been happening there. I'm horrified in seeing what's happening here in the US. And I think Americans and Westerners in general, and I think really, I must tell you this. I don't know if we talked about this when we were there, but I think this pro-Palestinian um, protests and activities in the West, I think they're using the Palestinian issue as an anchor for attacking the Western way of life, attacking capitalism. Why? There was a ceasefire, yes? Why did they not stop for a day protesting? There was a ceasefire, and they don't understand that what they're doing is actually with BDS movement. Who works in these factories that BDS movement is trying to stop? It is the Arabs that are working and earning a living in those places. I've met Arabs myself when I used to come with Philos Project, that they would say, we love working here. Please go back and talk about stopping this BDS movement that has started in America. Yeah, I think it's a global movement that is trying to attack the Western way of living. And they have hung their hats on this Palestinian cause. And half of them don't know that Yasser. Nobody, not many know. I bet you, no, but not many know that Yasser Arafat was not even an Arab from Israel. Air quotes Palestinian. He was an Egyptian. He brought in the identity called Palestinian in the 1960s, and I'm sure I'm going to be stoned for saying that, but we need to read history and learn from it, hopefully.
Actually, when you speak about it, so one place that there is, I wouldn't call it apartheid, but definitely a structured sort of discrimination is Iraq and the Syrian parts of Iraq. Because I don't know all the things that are going on, but first of all, obviously, the Syrians were ethnically cleansed in their old country. And even if you speak about the legal situation on the ground in Iraq today, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, if an Syrian wants to open a business, for example, he must have an Arab partner, otherwise he won't be, he doesn't qualify by its own. It's like, basically, it's the same as dhimmi in the old Islamic world.
We are still considered dhimmis, yes. And it's systematic. In the Iraqi constitution officially, if a husband or a wife converts to Islam, the children are automatically Muslim. That's combating, that's destroying the religious freedom aspect. Or yesterday was the elections in Iraq. Anybody can vote for a Christian seat, for an Assyrian seat. And many times, Arabs vote for the Iranian agents that are in Baghdad. So yes, discrimination, dhimmi treatment of the minorities is very alive and real. And Israel being considered a colonizer, I think, a colonizing agent in modern times is Iran. Iran has colonized Iraq. They call it Iran 2.0. They had colonized Syria. They had colonized Lebanon, Yemen. Let's not forget about Yemen. So if anybody's a colonizer, is the Islamic Republic of Iran that is the colonizer. And unfortunately, as much as the Persians, the Iranian people rose over and over again. The Green Revolution in 2009, they used to chant Obama, Obama. In Farsi, Obama means he's with us. They used to chant that, and he betrayed them. And I just don't understand why the US, I don't understand why the US is not going in to do regime change. If anywhere needs to be changed, their regime is the Islamic Republic, to free these poor people that have suffered economically, and they suffer from lack of freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and so many other broken human rights there. I mean, it's committing genocide against its own people. So many political prisoners have been executed. So many innocent people have been executed in Iran, and it's pure heartbreak.
Do the Syrians ever wonder or talk amongst themselves about the striking difference between what's going on in the West and in the streets and in the campuses, between the Palestinian issue and the Syrian issue? Because we don't see people demonstrating saying free Syria or end the apartheid in Iraq. I mean, maybe you did. I never seen any of that. Is it something that is part of the Syrian discourse today?
Yes, very much so. I mean, look, nobody wants to see dead children, yes, but it is not Israel's fault that they're suffering on the other side in what used to be, by the way, a de facto state. Israel removed its bones, even their people, out of Gaza in 2005. And it became a de facto state. And what did they do? Iran built a second city underneath, and it devastated the Israeli public. And it continues. I mean, the effect, the trauma in the minds of these hostages that, thanks be to God, Baruch Hashem, have been released. It's going to stay with them for the rest of their lives and rest of your lives as a people. Yes, we do discuss that, and obviously everybody wanted the end to come faster, so the innocent does not suffer. But unfortunately, the Palestinian people, many of them celebrated when October 10th happened. The bodies were dragged on the streets and they were cheering. When the hostages were being returned, they were cheering. When the bodies of the Bibas were coming, they were cheering. They were singing and dancing to their own music. I mean, this is not humanity. You know, Tom, I really believe in my heart of hearts, that there's something metaphysical happening here. What happened on October 7th was a metaphysical crime that happened. What human being could, excuse me, I'm going to be a little graphic, bind parents on the chairs and to each other and set their children on fire in front of them? What human being could, and film themselves? At least the Nazis, I mean, they said nobody's going to write about this, and history is not going to know, the world is not going to know about this crime that they were committing. These savages broadcasted it. So I don't think this is human. I think this is metaphysical, a metaphysical war that we're all engaged in. So yes, so the discourse is there. Obviously, Assyrians don't want to see dead children, Palestinians or Arabs, but many also understand why this is happening. And many are with you. There are many who are afraid of speaking up because they say, my cousin is in Iraq, my cousin is in Iran, so and so. So they're afraid of speaking up, but among ourselves, they show much support to the Jewish people and Israelis.
Thank you.
Because look, we have suffered from the same element, for 1400 years.
There's a partnership of faith over here. So first of all, thank you for everything. I think that before we'll end, first of all, I'll read the nice comment that Corinne wrote to us, but before it, to end, I think many people won't forgive me if I won't ask you about the necklace So obviously there's a story behind the necklace. Can you please share it with us?
Sure. So I'll start with Adonai. So this, let me see. Yeah. So this is Assyrian script. My brother's father-in-law is known as the father of Assyrian calligraphy. And I asked him to write Adonai, and he wrote this on sheepskin. Or on skin, on leather, and it's hanging on my wall. And I asked them to make this for me. So this is Adonai. This one is Hineni. So this is Assyrian script. This Hineni, as long as I've known myself, I have dedicated my life in the path of God. And and always there's a Christian song, is it me? Oh my gosh, I don't remember now. It's been a long time since I've heard it, but it's Isaiah 6, basically. That here I am, Lord. Oh yeah, it's called Here I Am, Lord. That's the name of the song. So I have always said, ever since I was a child, here I am, Lord, send me. And when I learned that in Hebrew it's Hineni, and I saw a silver version of this, and I bought it, but unfortunately it was eroded. It got eroded way too quickly. So I had this made in Chicago by a friend jeweler, a friend of mine who's a jeweler, and I wear it. I wear them together because I have said Hineni to him, and I've said Hineni to his children. That's basically it. Hineni, here I
Story.
am for you.
You definitely are. And it's a great pleasure to have you here. I think that we can adjourn with a great comment by Corinne Eisner. BTW, Shachar would like to say thank you for the compliments. Uh,
You're welcome. They're true. You're brilliant.
Corinne writes, and I think it's a very good closing remarks. In recent weeks, the first ever Assyrian inscription was found in Jerusalem in an archaeological excavation, 2,800 years old, very fitting to a new chapter in the relationship between our people. It is. Thank you very much for your time, beautiful message and open heart. I also
Thank you,
sign on
Corinne.
those words. Thank you, Juliana. It was
Thank you.
very
It's my
interesting,
honor,
very
truly.
important. Maybe we can count it as the first among the 1001 Assyrian Israeli night.
Yes.
There's a lot of job to do.
Yes.
I hope to see you again soon here in Israel and on our Zoom conversations. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
God willing, I plan to come in the spring for many reasons, but let us not wait until then. Let us continue this important work of ours and bringing more people to join our team, capable people on both sides, the Israelis and the Assyrians.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank
Toda
you,
rabba.
Juliana.
Thank you very much for
Have a
everything.
great evening, afternoon.
Thank you. Well, you've given me so much homework, both of you, and Shahar. I'm gonna have to get back to my own PhD proposal and also your homework you've assigned to me.
Sorry for that, but it will pay up.
No, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. I'm enjoying it greatly. It's the first step towards a dream that I and my people have had for. It's quite emotional, Tom. Before we go, um, as I was there with you all, I thought of my grandmother, who's known as the queen of the Assyrian heritage of 20th century. I thought of my great uncle, who, by the way, my grandmother is on permanent display representing the Assyrian genocide at the Holocaust Museum in Illinois, which is the second largest Holocaust museum outside Israel. So she's representing the Assyrian genocide of 1915. And my great uncle, my friend, and our leader who passed away, Ashur Sargon Zcharia, who I compare, if I don't commit blasphemy, I hope you won't take it like that, but he was our Moses. He was our Moses. And and we were right at the parting of the Red Sea when he died of COVID on April 9, 2021. And I feel like we went back to slavery. So in his honor, in my and other activists that have come and have died of broken hearts, the good news is that this generation has risen to the occasion and will not rest until we have our rights observed in Iraq, on our ancestral land in Ashur.
We will be with you hand in hand in this
I know.
road.
Thank you. Thank you. Toda
Thank
rabba,
you.
truly, from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, dear. See you again soon.
See you soon.